Hello, this is Richard from Expedition Tracking. Today I'm going to show you how to create routes and import them to our tracking system. I'm going to use the OS online mapping tool. You may use the EDV system, which is based on this. This is the full OS package, so this has got a few more features than the OS version. But either way, creating routes is broadly similar. So either you or your students may be creating a route. So if I go in and say create a route on here, I'm first of all going to go in and just choose a name for it. I'm going to call this the Wrekin Walk 2023. And what you can do is you make sure you're on plot to plot your route points, and you can plot the place to start. So I'm going to start here, which is going to be my first point. I'm then going to walk up here, walk up here, walk up here, go up to the top of the Wrekin. Let me scroll it around here, which is a great big hill in Shropshire, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with. And then I'm going to walk back around the edge a little bit lower down the hill, and then wander down to the road here and go back to where I started. Okay, so that's a little circular route I have drawn there. Now, if I was just to import that into our system would automatically just create a start and an end point. But what I'm interested in showing you is how to create checkpoints, and they might be meeting points, overnight campsites, and things like that. So if I go along to here and say, let's go and choose this point here, which is called Hellgate. If I edit this, you'll notice at the moment, if I edit this, it puts the grid reference in there. Just the act of changing this, and I'm going to call this checkpoint 1 Hell's Gate, just the action of putting something in the title will make this recognized by our tracking system as a checkpoint that you want to see. So if I save that now, I'm going to move on to this one here, just move that very slightly, and I'm going to put the checkpoint 2 is the summit. I'll click this one here. Actually, I'll click this one here and choose this as checkpoint 3. You can write whatever you like in these. It can be completely free form. You could say campsite or meeting site or anything along those lines. Finally, I'll put a checkpoint here, which is called meeting point 2. I'll save that. Now, it does automatically add a start and an end point in, but I'm going to actually specifically go in and name that. I will say I want this to be called start, and I'll edit this one, and I want this one to be called finish. If you don't do that, it will automatically do it for you anyway. Now, okay, once that's been done, you can then save this route. So if I now go to save this, do I want to continue editing? No, I don't. And that will save it. You then get this export button here. If I click on export the GPX file, that's now saved it down here and it's ready to import. So if we now go and log into our system, let me just log out of here completely, sign out. You would sign in with your credentials at this point in time, and then you would get this menu here at the top, which is orders, events, and trackers. And we already know what those other ones mean because you have been testing those already. So you have been seeing those in a previous video. So if I go into edit this particular event here, which I've just called my event, it's running from the 6th of April 2023 to the 8th of April. So 6, 7, 8, 3 days long. All of your usual settings are here. Let me just put Ordnance Survey as the usual map type to use, just so it matches our map. And then what I'm going to go and do now is import the route we've just done. There's already a couple of routes I've imported here, but I'm going to add one more for the purposes of this demonstration. So if you click on this little plus key here under the routes and checkpoints area, you can import either a GPX file or a CSV. What's a CSV? It's just a comma delimited file. So rarely are these used. In all honesty, most people would create a full GPX file. If you just decide to import a text file under the format of checkpoint 1, then a full grid reference, one on each line, it will import those route points onto our tracking system, but you won't get any speed and distance and time calculations because there's no actual route. It will just draw a straight line between each of those points. What you really want to do is use the system we've just created. You've just used, sorry, to create the Wrekin Walk. So this has added a third GPX file on there. You'll notice that it's added 6 checkpoints on there. If I go and click edit, you can alter the name if you wish. The first thing I'm going to do is change the color. I'm going to make this purple and update that. Let's go back in and make some more changes. I'm going to leave the start as called Hell's Gate Summit. Instead, I'm going to change this to read meeting point 1. Okay, you'll notice it puts the distances on here, and this is where the magic happens in terms of calculating the estimated times of arrival, speed and distance, and all of the average times on there. So now that's been updated, what I'm going to do is go back and first of all show you what this looks like initially. So when I was to load this, there are 3 long routes. One of them is, if I list up over here, you'll see what we've got: the Cape Wrath Trail, the National Three Peaks Challenge, and the Wrekin Walk. If I untick each of those, you'll see what makes up those. So that's the Cape Wrath Trail, that's the National Three Peaks Challenge, and this is the Wrekin Walk, which is down there. So if I now go down, for example, to the Wrekin Walk, you'll see that this is the one that we just drew. Let me flip this over just to be an Ordnance Survey leisure map, just so it matches exactly the map we've just been using, and you'll see, there we go, there's the I've just drawn. And if you move your mouse over here, that's the start and finish. There's checkpoint 1, Hell's Gate, there's the summit, checkpoint 3, and then finally there is the road. You would also see copies of those on here. If you were to click the leaderboard icon, which is there, and you can also click that version there, it will take you into the leaderboard icon. And there are 3 GPX files or 3 routes assigned. In this case, I'm going to choose the Wrekin Walk, and there they are. The start isn't shown because that's standard, but all of those other meeting points, checkpoint 1, 2, 3, or 4. And I've got 2 trackers on here, Group 1 and Group 2. And as they begin to progress along the route, you would see the times that are shown. For example, when they get to checkpoint 1, it would say 14:33 or whatever the time is, and it would also then give ETAs in grey coloured ink, which will tell you the estimated times of arrival for checkpoint 2, checkpoint 3. This page looks about 8 hours ahead. Now, obviously, the people who you're following are very likely going to slow down, so the estimations for the finish are likely not to be accurate. But certainly for the closer ones, these are updated every 60 to 120 seconds. So the ETAs end up being very, very accurate. So certainly a good idea to use them if you can. Okay, I'm going to go back into the setup of this event. Let me just pop back into the previous page and go back to the setup. Now let's go and have a look at the participants that have been assigned here, just so I can show you some more advanced features in terms of how it calculates the useful information. So we've got our Group 1 and Group 2. You can obviously change the name of these. You could assign them to groups if you wanted to. You might have a kind of a red team or a blue team. There's no need to fill in nationality. There's no need to fill an age category, although you can use that information if you want to. The important ones we're looking at here are the start times and the route. Now, the start time for the event is always taken from this information here. So I've set this to start at 5 o'clock in the morning. So that will always be used as the start time for all of your trackers. So if you know everyone's going to start at 8 o'clock, by all means change that to 8 o'clock, and that will be accurate. However, what you may have is a staggered start time, or you may be using different GPX files for different days. Now I'm going to demonstrate that now. So first of all, Group 1, I'm going to assign Group 1 to the Wrekin Walk, which means this specific tracker is assigned to that particular GPX file, so you'll get accurate start and finish and ETAs and all the rest of it for all the checkpoints. Group 2, they're walking a different route, and they're going to be walking the Cape Wrath Trail. So I've put that on there. One thing that's important to say at this point, if you are an organization who likes to send groups in different directions, i.e. anti-clockwise, and send other groups clockwise, then you would have to create your Wrekin walk in 2 directions. So you've created one here, where, for example, this is 1 kilometer in, this is 2 kilometer in, this checkpoint here. If you were creating an anti-clockwise version, you would have to, a clockwise version, sorry, you would have to draw it from this way. So you'd end up with Wrekin walk clockwise, Wrekin walk anti-clockwise, and you would assign it to the appropriate group. And that way, you can see the little arrow on here is indicating the direction of travel. So it's important that if you are using multi-directional, you are using routes which you intend to set groups going on in different directions, you create one anti-clockwise version and one clockwise and assign it to the right group. So in here, that's where you would do that. You would assign it to assign the groups here, and I'm going to leave the start time as blank for this one. And for this one, I'm going to say the group are going to actually start at 6 o'clock instead. Sorry, I need to click on that and type 6 o'clock instead, or let's say 6:01. And that now has chosen today's date at 6:01. Now, that will give you accurate start times for today, because that's today that the event is taking place. Now, if at the end of the day, you were going to set these on a completely different route, and you've created, for example, a day 2 or a day 3 GPX file, at the end of the day or at the beginning of the second day, you could say, right, on day 2, these people are going to do the National Three Peaks Challenge route. And when you click on that, what you'd want to do is select the next day. So today I'm going to say tomorrow they're going to walk on the 7th, and tomorrow they're going to start at 8 o'clock in the morning. There we go. Okay, what will that then do is make sure that the data is very accurate for your start and finish time for your second route. So in other words, your ETAs will work both on day 1 when they were assigned to the Cape Wrath route, and on day 2 when they're assigned to this route here, because we've basically overwritten the start time of the event by specifically stating actually these are starting on the second day. Hopefully that makes sense. One thing I should say about all of this information is this is all optional. You only have to start applying and assigning trackers to specific routes and times if you want to use or leverage the speed, distance and time calculations. If you're not interested in finding the accurate speed, distance and time calculations, you don't need to do anything other than this here, which is upload the routes, because uploading the routes will give you that visual representation which you see on the page here. And if that's all you're interested in seeing, you don't care what time they're going to be at the checkpoints, then don't worry about assigning all those start times. You can just say, I'm happy that I can see some flags, they're moving along the route, and that's all I need to see. So that really is it. Hopefully that's been a useful introduction for how to create routes and leverage some of our really powerful speed and distance and time calculations for each checkpoint. And it's very, very sophisticated in that it will work for out and back routes and things like that. If you were creating a multi-lap event, then just so you understand how it works, if you're creating, let's say you were going around this 10 times, you would actually draw 10 circles, so to speak, and then as they went round each lap, you will continuously see their mileage increase as they went around and around. So if you've got any more questions, by all means come to us and we will explain it in more detail. But hopefully that's given you a nice overview, an introduction for how to create your routes and ensure you get the most out of them using our very sophisticated tracking system. Thank you very much for listening.